I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. One of the most remarkable parts of our coverage learning about the indictments against Donald Trump for his crimes in Georgia relating to the 2020 election brought by Fani, Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, and voted on by the Fulton County Grand Jury was that press conference held by Fani Willis. It was pitch perfect. It was tough. It was the essence of what law and order is all about. I want to play for you some of that press conference. I'll play the full press conference, actually, because it was fairly short. But I want to talk about it briefly, what led to it. I want to give you some context for it, and what I think are some of the most important takeaways. I think the first important takeaway is that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis states that she wants to bring this sweeping RICO racketeering case she's filed against Donald Trump along with 18 other co-defendants. So a total of 19 defendants, 41 separate counts, 30 unindicted co-conspirators. She wants this case to go to trial in 6 months. She states in this press conference I'm about to play in a moment. She also states that she wants to try all of the defendants together. She's not going to want to sever the case into different component parts. She also lets everybody know that warrants, arrest warrants, have been issued for Donald Trump and all of the 19 defendants in this case, but they have been given the opportunity to voluntarily surrender by August 25th. I think another important point to reflect on is the arraignment. And in Georgia, what is notable is, unlike in, let's say, federal court, where the federal prosecutor has to argue in the first instance to the judge why a criminal defendant is a flight risk and why a criminal defendant should be detained, in Georgia, the presumption kind of flips. And so the criminal defendants, including Donald Trump, will have to argue at the arraignment why it is that they should not be detained pre-trial. And among the factors that they're going to have to address is they're going to have to show that they didn't threaten witnesses, that they don't pose an ongoing threat. And Donald Trump, on the same day that he was ultimately indicted in Fulton County, Georgia, was threatening witnesses, was threatening Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, was threatening Jeff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor who served as president of the Senate in 2020. So Donald Trump may actually get detained. And based on how powerful this indictment is. And by the way, it would put Donald Trump and all of his co-defendants in jail for a very long time, for most of them based on their age, for the rest of their life. These 41 counts included serious felonies or felonies, so all felony counts. The level of detail, the level of specificity, and that this was 98 pages of fact. The overt acts, the predicate acts that form the RICO racketeering. One of the most, if not the most brilliant indictment as a legal document that I have seen, a powerful document. And based on how strong it is, I would not be surprised if Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, the same strength with which she brought this indictment, if she asks that Donald Trump be remanded and detained into custody based on the criminal acts that are alleged, that he is an ongoing threat. And so to me, some of the main takeaways. And then, of course, when you go through who some of these co-defendants are, I mean, Giuliani, a Trump lawyer, Meadows, chief of staff, Eastman, Trump lawyer, Chesbrough, Trump lawyer, Jeff Clark, who worked at the DOJ, Jenna Ellis, Trump lawyer, Robert Cheeley, lawyer who promoted fraud claims. Mike Roman, Trump campaign official who was responsible for the fake elector scheme. Dave Shaper, Georgia fake elector. Sean Still, fake GOP elector. Stephen Lee, a pastor tied to intimidation of election workers. Harrison Floyd, Trevian Cuddy, Sidney Powell, Kathy Latham, Scott Hall, Misty Hampton. As you go through this indictment, fake elector scheme, filing false documents, making false representations to elected officials, computer trespass, theft of election data, and to see in the RICO portion of this complaint that Donald Trump and his co-defendants led a criminal enterprise. A criminal enterprise. For it to be framed that way is so completely on point with the criminal conduct at issue. So I want to show you the press conference now with Fani Willis. This was super powerful. I wanted to give you that context which frames this press conference. So without further ado, let's play it.
Joining us, I'm here with the prosecutors and investigators who have worked diligently on the investigation of criminal attempts to interfere in the administration of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state. The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long. Please remember that everyone charged in this bill of indictment is presumed innocent. Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with one count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21. Specifically, the participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors who were certified as the winners of Georgia's 2020 general election. As you examine the indictment, you will see acts that are identified as overt acts and those that are identified as predicate acts, sometimes called acts of racketeering activity. Overt acts are not necessarily crimes under Georgia law in isolation, but are alleged to be acts taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. Many occurred in Georgia, and some occurred in other jurisdictions and are included because the grand jury believes they were part of the illegal effort to overturn the results of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. The acts identified as predicate acts or acts of racketeering activity are crimes that are alleged to have been committed in furtherance of the criminal enterprise. Acts of racketeering activity are also charged as separate counts in the indictment against those who are alleged to have committed them. All elections in our nation are administered by these states, which are given the responsibility of ensuring a fair process and an accurate counting of the votes. That includes elections for presidential electors, Congress, state officials, and local offices. The state's role in this process is essential to the functioning of our democracy. Georgia, like every state, has laws that allow those who believe that results of an election are wrong, whether because of intentional wrongdoing or unintentional error, to challenge those results in our state courts. The indictment alleges that rather than abide by Georgia's legal process for election challenges, the defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result. Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023. I remind everyone here that an indictment is only a series of allegations based on a grand jury's determination of probable cause to support the charges. It is now the duty of my office to prove these charges in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. I would like to take a moment to thank the Superior Court Clerk, Shay Alexander, and her staff for staying late and making sure that this indictment was processed. I would also like to thank the men and women of Sheriff Labatt's office for keeping the courthouse open, but most importantly for keeping us safe over the weeks and months that have led up to this indictment, and for what I know they will continue to do to keep us safe. We also want to thank the Atlanta Police Department and other law enforcement partners who have worked with the sheriff to keep us safe. I will now take a very limited number of questions prior to going to sleep.
Madam District Attorney.
If you don't mind, Surveyor 11 to 11 alive. Quick question: can you clarify in Georgia the mandatory minimum when it comes to RICO charges, whether it's servable by probation or how that might play out?
The RICO charges has time that you have to serve, so it is not a probated sentence.
Madam District Attorney, what's the timetable for the trial?
What is the timetable for the trial?
Yes.
As you know, in this jurisdiction, trials are set by the judges, and so it will be the judge that sets the date of the trial. This office will be submitting a proposed scheduling order within this week. However, that will totally be at the discretion of the judge.
And you're the fourth person, the fourth jurisdiction now to indict on. Do you the fourth one to try him, or continue it up? Do you want to be the first to try him?
I don't have any desire to be first or last. I want to try him and be respectful for our sovereign states. We do want to move this case along, and so we will be asking for a proposed order that occurs a trial date within the next 6 months.
Madam District Attorney, there was earlier today there was a fictitious document according to the Fulton County Clerk's Office that was circulated online with charges against former President Donald Trump. That fictitious document matched exactly the charges that we now see in this indictment. Can you tell us more about that document leak? Because now you have the former president's lawyers who are saying this is emblematic of a serious problem with your office?
No, I can't tell you anything about what you refer to. What I can tell you is that we had a grand jury here in Fulton County. They deliberated till almost 8 o'clock, if not right after 8 o'clock. An indictment was returned. It was true billed, and you now have an indictment. I am not an expert on clerks' duties or even administrative duties. I wouldn't know how to work that system, and so I'm not going to speculate. Next question.
Have you had any contact with the special counsel about overlap between these cases, and do you intend to try all of these defendants together?
Do I intend to try the 19 defendants in this indictment together? Yes.
And have you had any contact with the special counsel about the overlap between this indictment and the federal indictment?
I'm not going to discuss our investigation at this time. I'm going to take...
What do you make of the arguments made by former President Trump that this is a politically motivated play?
I make decisions in this office based on the facts and the law. The law is completely nonpartisan. That's how decisions are made in every case. To date, this office has indicted, since I've been sitting as a district attorney, over 12,000 cases. This is the 11th RICO indictment. We followed the same process. We look at the facts, we look at the law, and we bring charges.
There you have it, folks. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. I think this is the most powerful indictment that we've seen yet filed. And if you're one of these co-defendants, or if you're an unindicted co-conspirator right now, you know that Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, means business. Donald Trump is terrified of her. Donald Trump continues to try to threaten and intimidate her, but she refuses to be intimidated. She recognizes the importance of this moment, the importance of law and order. Should be a proud day for all of us to be Americans, a proud day for pro-democracy, knowing that there are strong law and order prosecutors like Fani Willis. I guess one other point too, when Donald Trump is arraigned, we know from the Fulton County Sheriff that Trump will have his mugshot taken. He will be booked like any other criminal defendant, period, full stop. And the arraignment will be live. It will be broadcast live. Judge Robert McBurney's already said these proceedings in Georgia, the trial, the court proceedings, they are all live in Georgia, unlike federal court. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Check us out at MeidasTouch.com for all the breaking news. That's MeidasTouch.com. Thank you so much, and subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Have a great day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.